I decided to make a video for section 14.2, which is Law of Cosines, to show you how I usually use the Law of Cosines to solve known right triangles. So I copied two problems from the assignment that you're going to have to complete. I am going to do both of them here, and hopefully that is going to help you approach this. Okay, so first of all, you should know that you will be using the law of cosines if you have three sides, or if you have two sides and an included angle. And what the law of sine says is that if you have a triangle, maybe I should just sketch it here so it makes more sense. Let's say this is triangle ABC, and the side opposite to angle C small c, the side opposite to angle A small a, and the side opposite to angle B small b. Then you can say that C squared is going to be equal to A squared plus B squared, which is just like Pythagorean theorem, but you have to add a little something else at the end, because this triangle is not a right triangle. Essentially, the reason for that is because cosine 90 is 0, and because cosine 90 is 0, when you actually multiply a and b by 0, you get a 0. So in this case, you also have to do a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of the angle out there. You can also isolate the other two sides. So you can also say that b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. And you can also say that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine a. You'll not be asked to memorize this, although if you want to, it should be pretty easy. Whichever side is out here is always going to match the angle over here. And the rest of it, just use Pythagorean theorem. You just have to do minus 2 times these two sides, minus 2 times these two sides, minus 2 times these two sides. To be honest with you, I always use one form myself, which is c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine c. I don't really change when I have to solve a problem. I am going to show you what I do, and you can use that if you want to. If you don't want to and you want to just use a different equation for different pictures, that's fine too. So it's a solve triangle PQR. What they mean by solving a triangle is you have to find the measures of all three sides and the measure of all three angles. They say round function values to 4 decimal places, round final answers to the nearest tenth. Okay? So the way I usually do these kinds of problems is I pick, let's say I'm going to pick one part to solve for first. In this case, since I have the angle here and I am looking for this side because they're opposite from each other, those are the two that I'm going to have the side outside and cosine of that angle. So I am going to say that q squared, that would be my c squared, is going to be equal to the sum of the other two sides squared, so 8 squared plus 4 squared, that would be my c right now, minus 2 times these two numbers, so 8 and 4, and cosine of this angle over here, which is 84. And at that point, it's just a matter of putting everything on the calculator and then taking the square root. So if you wanted to show some work, I would get q squared is equal to 64 plus 16 minus 64 cosine 84. Enter that on the calculator and they're gonna get something that looks like this. Q squared is equal to 73.3101 7835. And now you square root both sides. And since they want me to round it to the nearest tenth, I am going to say that Q is 8.6. Okay. Now they also want me to find the two angles. So I'm gonna go ahead and I am going to use law of cosines again. So I am going to say, since now I have the measurement for Q, I am going to say that, let's say I pick, doesn't matter which one I pick to do first. I am going to find, I don't know, angle R. I'm going to go for angle R. So now this is going to be my C. This is going to be my angle, and that's 8 is my C. So I'm going to say that 8 squared is equal to 4 squared plus Q squared, which I found was 8.6, minus 2 times 4 times 8.6 cosine of angle R, which is what I'm looking for. Now I gotta do some math. Now a very common mistake you students make all the time is that they subtract this from that. But you cannot, because this portion here is multiplying cosine R. So the only thing you can evaluate and combine, subtract is the first portion, this one, okay? This one you cannot. So I am going to say that 64 is equal to 16 plus, I'm going to square that. When you square that, you get 73.96. Minus, and then 68.8 cosine R. Now I have to subtract, well, I can combine these two. When I combine those two, I get 89.96. So 64 is equal to 89.96 minus 68.8 cosine R. And now you have to subtract this from both sides. And what you get now is negative 25.96 is equal to negative 68.8 cosine R. So now the negatives cancel out. So I can say that cosine R is equal to 25.96 over 68.8. And if you remember from right triangle trig, for you to find the measure of the angle, if you have the value for cosine, you have to use inverse trig. So we can do cosine negative 1, inverse cosine 25.96 over 68.8, and you get the value for that to be about 67.8. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. And now that you have that, it's really easy to find the third angle because you have two angles and you know the sum is 180. So to find the measure of angle P, which is the third piece of information, you just have to do 180 minus the sum of the other two angles. So minus 67 28.8 plus 84, which gives you about 28.2 degrees. And that is how you solve the entire triangle. Now you have the three angles and the three sides. There's one more problem here, which in this case, they gave you three sides. They want you to find the three angles. So you're going to have to use the law of cosines twice, and then find the third angle by subtracting the sum of two angles from 180. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say I choose to find, let's see, let's say I choose to find angle R first. Okay. So this is going to be my C. That's going to be my, as if it were my angle C. And then I'm just going to set it up. So I'm going to say that 7 squared is equal to 4 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 4 times 8 cosine, or you follow the same step. 64 equals 49. Oh, sorry, this is 49 equals 64. 49 equals to 16 plus 64 minus, and that is 64 cosine R. Once again, you cannot subtract 64 from 16 plus 64 because it's multiplying cosine R. So you can only combine these two. So you get 49, 49 is equal to, this is going to be 16 plus 64, 80 minus 64 cosine R. And now you have to subtract 80 from both sides. And then you do your inverse trig and you get the rest. So negative 51 equals negative 64 cosine R. So once again, if you want to find the measure of angle R, you're going to have to do inverse trig. So it's going to be inverse cosine, and two negatives make a positive, so 51 over 64. You get the measure of that angle, which should be about 37.2 degrees. Then you got to do the same thing for another one. Oh gosh. This. Why? I don't know why this was moved here. And there's really no undo there. Yeah, okay. All right, so now let's say I decide I wish to find, I don't know, angle Q. So now this is going to be my small c, that's my big C. So I'm going to say that 8 squared is equal to 7 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 7 times 4 cosine Q. You follow the same steps, you get 64 equals 49 plus 16 minus 56 cosine Q. And you can combine these two, but not the rest. So 64 is equal to 65 minus 56 cosine Q. And subtract 65 from both sides. Negative 1 is equal to negative 56 cosine Q. Use inverse cosine. So you get 1 over 56. And that angle should be about 89. That's Q, right? Yeah. 89 degrees. And then to find the third one, if this is 89, this is Q. So 89, measure of angle R is 37.2. So this is 37.2. And then you just have to subtract that sum from 180. So according to my calculations, then this one should be 180 minus 37.2 plus 89, which gives me 53.8. And now I am done because I have the three sides and the three angles in this non-right triangle. Okay? Okay, see you next time. Thank you so much.